So I'll call this meeting to order at 5:35 on Wednesday, March 20th, 2019. How do we do the roll call?
We'll do the roll call for us, and Mary Alice was out of town.
Ms. Balahi,
Present.
Ms. Kane,
Present.
Ms. Corris, Mr. Miles,
Present.
Mr. O'Brien,
Present.
Mr. Shetty,
Here.
Ms. Simpson is excused, Mr. Taylor,
Here.
Ms. Wu is excused.
We have a quorum.
And we have a board. Okay. So approval of minutes of the previous meeting on December 12th.
Ask for a motion.
I motion.
We have a motion from Tegan. Anybody second?
I'll second.
Second from Shay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. All right. Do we have any additions to the agenda? No? Okay, then we will move on to the public input. Anybody have anything to say?
Yes, I do. Should I stand?
Identify yourself.
If you'd like to, yeah.
So I'm Lorian Percy, and I'm one of the co-owners of Lumen Farm, and I am here to, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to give public input to this process, and I'm here to advocate for a more collaborative relationship between the produce growers, all of the vendors, and the market staff. I am asking for time and a place for produce vendors to have input on decisions that are major and structural to the farmers market, decisions that are not day-to-day. A day-to-day decision would be something like, should we ban dogs from the farmers market? Should we have recycling bins on the corners of the farmers market? But a structural layout plan for the farmers market would have a big impact on all of the growers in that spot and all of the vendors in general. And I would like to see that we can have some input on that decision. We do have a big problem. Market foot traffic is down 13% over last year. Our sales are down 17% over last year. We're not saying let's do nothing. We're saying let's have a well thought out, careful strategic plan for the market that gets input from everybody. Big strategic changes need to be arrived at through a calm, deliberative, and thoughtful process that includes input from long-term stakeholders. Large produce vendors are one of the main draws of foot traffic at the farmers market. We need the little guys, and the little guys need us. We need diversity, but we need a core group of growers who bring consistent produce to the market. Our input is important, and it should be taken into account. I want the market staff to delay the decision to add a row of produce vendors to the west side until we have time to have a thoughtful, careful strategy. And I would like to have a meeting where produce vendors have a chance to speak their mind. We have a lot of information, we have a lot of ideas, and we are important to this process, and our voices should be heard. I don't think the market staff knows enough about the needs of the growers and the customers to make major changes to the market without hearing from us. That's the end of my public input.
Thank you. Yes?
Kim Campbell, Charleston, Illinois, Campbell Apiaries. I completely agree with what you just said, and I will add one note. My sales have been down since 2015. constantly, as if someone had applied a formula to that. At any rate, as far as Walnut Street, I'm opposed to using Walnut Street. That's the shortest way in and out of the market parking lot on Saturdays for before and after the market. I think it's going to cause more vendor traffic congestion by blocking that off. Also, delivery trucks to Common Ground use Walnut Street. Just this Saturday morning, I unloaded late. About 7:15, I heard a truck. There's a box truck backing into the loading dock. A few minutes later, I heard another truck. Looked up. It was a semi that pulled in, and a little bit later after that, I looked again. The semi was parked waiting for the box truck to leave. That's just within 15 minutes on Saturday morning. I noticed the 2018 market map. I looked at it for every Saturday. There were always empty vendor spaces available, except for 3 Saturdays in, I believe, July. Also, there have been 12 spaces on the north end of the market that are still registered on that map, listed as empty, because either we're not allowed to use them or they're just for overflow or whatever. I feel like using Walnut Street for vendors is sort of a temporary experiment. If a vendor has been in a location in the market and they choose to move, if Walnut Street doesn't work out, I have a feeling that they would not be able to return to their original location. That's my feelings about Walnut Street. Also, we've got 12 market map spaces at north end of the parking lot that I just mentioned, and most of the information I've gotten, that's on the email that we received recently on the market map. And the information I was able to get from that was that the pop-up spaces will be used for temporary programming, such related to Art of the Market, Sprouts, and other performances. And also, as I just mentioned, those spots a few years ago had been available to the vendors, but haven't been except for some kind of a overflow. Last meeting, last little note, I had asked if we could do something about quality control for the musicians or musicians and buskers, some sort of screening process. I looked on the information for musicians and buskers, and it looked as if there was between an hour and a half to a 2-hour window available in the morning, and for several of those people that is just too much. I don't mind good music, but I can't talk over music if it's close to me. And like I said, some of these people are just really difficult to bear for long periods of time on Saturday. Also, the last item, I've noticed the last couple of years, Manage My Market no longer has a blank asking whether vendors want musicians near them or not. And like I said, I love good music, but I just don't want to have to talk over it on Saturday mornings. And that goes for other than good music as well. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Is that all? So we'll move on to presentations. Okay, so move on to presentations. Brian?
Minimized.
Okay, so first I'm going to start with the annual report for the market, and then I'll follow that with my staff report. So last season at the market we had 204 vendors over the course of the season. There's a breakdown. I think last year we wound up adding 4 new additional growers. Food trucks, we had some rotation in the food trucks, so there's more food trucks listed there than there are actual spaces most Saturdays. We had some come in and out, and then value added and crafts both maintained about the same level of participation. Market attendance was down last year overall. That is attributable for the most part to some very rainy, wet days. We had a few days where it rained the entire span of the market, and that really knocked us for a loop. So there you go. We still average 3,900 people a week, which is pretty good over the course of the market. So programming for the market, we continue the Sprouts program programming. They joined up with the League of Women Voters to share the duties for that. Had pretty good success with that. Chef demonstrations continued last year despite continuing problems dealing with the local health department as far as what we're allowed to do and whether they're sampling or not. Right now, the chef demonstrations kind of exist as demonstration only unless we can prepare samples ahead of time in either one of the food trucks or the kitchen at the co-op, and both have been pretty helpful last season, so we plan on continuing those relationships this year. Art at the Market, so the Urbana Arts and Culture Program provided $2,800 to support monthly art workshops and music performances. So that included everything from musical performances to making, as well as they provided the activities for Scare at the Market on Halloween. Read the Market, library came out, brought items from their collection. I think they gave out balloons, so they continue to be kind of a good supporter for the market. In addition to those kind of regularly programmed things, we had the CSA Fair. Parkland Wind Ensemble was out twice last summer. Bike to the Market, the CU Chamber Orchestra came out. They were providing a performance as part of a grant application they had, grant award they had. WILL brought out the Mid-American Gardener twice. I think they got to be a victim of not so great weather one of those times, and then came out again and had a much better reception. The Farmers Market Blood Drive by Central Illinois Blood Services, and Downtown Food Truck Rally, which has been discontinued for the coming season due to the closing of the Civic Center, and then Market at the Square. Plus we had 21 individual buskers at the market last year. So our programming, I'm trying to expand the programming on days when we don't have things like Art at the Market or Sprouts at the Market, just to kind of get more people into the market, kind of keep a festive atmosphere going over there and see what happens. Most of our social media is up. Our market mail is a little bit down over last year. Our Yelp reviews are 4.5 stars, which sounds pretty good. And Google has gotten a 4.7 stars. So those things are still trending upward, which is always nice to see. The SNAP program, we did over $24,000 in combined SNAP and SNAP matching. That's up about $1,200 from the year before. So that program is still kind of growing. The grants for the match are provided by Farm Credit Illinois and Link Up Illinois, and we expect to have a similar amount of match for the coming 2019 season. We increased our match that we give at the market from $20, which it had been in previous years, to $30 per person. So they could get however much money they want off their benefit card, but we match the first $30. I got more about that for the coming year. And then that's the rundown. So the market had over $106,000 in revenue, and we had a little over $87,000 in expenses. So the market actually added money to its fund.
However, some of the revenues we received from the grants were not fully expended.
Right.
So some of that money's already obligated, and right now, we're not confident we will maintain that kind of fund balance increase each year. So it's something we need to continue to monitor.
Does that explain the discrepancy between the revenue and expenses in the SNAP matching grants and grant expenses? Because technically, since you're a pass-through, they should equal each other, but if you didn't use funds as that, so we have $3,700 left.
Right, there's carryover. We continued funding on part of the Link Up Illinois grant for this coming year.
Okay.
Also, this is a calendar year analysis, and this was unfortunately handcrafted. It was stitched together using information from the former financial system and the new financial system. But as we continue to settle into using the new one, we'll be able to run reports on just the market season, and that allows us to do things like, for example, the time of year we've received a grant funding versus an expenditure. We can still assign it to, say, the 2019 market season, regardless of really when the date falls. So it'll give us a more accurate picture of really how the market's operating programmatically, and ideally we'll be able to do breakouts and actually show the detail of, here's what we got on that grant, and here's what we've spent on it, and here's what we have left to go.
Would we be able to get P&Ls going forward with the new accounting system for the market?
It's not set up that way. We can do a fund report, but I think a programmatic report is going to be more interesting to the board because it will tell you, again, what's really happening within a season. And that's, I think, where we want to focus our analysis. But yes, we'll be able to offer more detailed reports.
Any other questions? All right. Okay, so then I'll feed into my staff report.
One real quick question.
Sure.
Can we have those in advance of a meeting, instead, I'm slow and I gotta absorb all this in, so we could have our questions ready when we get to this
For the fund?
in the future. Reports like this, can we have that ahead of time?
Yes, this was sent out with your packet.
I didn't get it.
I didn't get that.
I didn't get
I
it.
didn't get a packet.
We
By
just got the
email?
agenda and the...
Yeah, it's got the agenda and
I got the map
and
today.
the minutes.
You didn't receive the link to the,
And I kinda had to browbeat
the email.
Brian down to get that.
The link to the annual report was in the email.
I didn't even get an email.
we definitely need to get into that. So Diane didn't receive an email.
All right.
But everybody else got an email?
No.
No.
You didn't receive an email?
I got just the minutes and the agenda.
Like I said, the only reason I got this because I was browbeating Brian on that.
Emailed those meetings, but not in a...
You got it all.
So
Yeah.
Diane,
It was in the body of the email, the link to the annual report. It
Oh,
wasn't an attachment.
so yeah, because of the.
I would maybe just say that this link is the annual report rather than just saying
Okay.
2018 annual report and then a link that is not described as such.
Okay. And then to confirm, Diane, Kent, and Stan, you said you didn't receive the emails. We'll need to follow up with you because you really want me to be receiving those.
That's where I got kicked off.
Stan, I have a question for you. Did you receive your second invoice from me when I sent it?
Not the first one.
Not the first one, but the
Second.
second one came through? Okay. Because I was
I
worried.
got it, yeah, I got, and that's why I was
Brandon, weird.
in my
We have
approval.
more copies of this right
Right,
here.
okay, so you got the
Is there any
second
more?
one,
No, I didn't
so the
see
second
it.
round came through.
Right. With this here too then.
I just like to
That's weird.
reference it
They're
later.
Yeah, sorry
separate
about that.
things, but
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay, sorry about that, we'll check.
That's, just what it is. But yeah, that'd burn up too much ink if I had to print that.
Kim, you received one as well.
I received an email for the meeting. I don't recall any additional...
Right.
I may be forgetting it, but I don't recall seeing anything else to open up on the email.
Yeah, but you were added to the distribution
Yeah.
as you requested. so.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so,
Sorry.
All right, so I want to talk about this, the Row W proposal, which would be the Walnut Street Row, the 40th anniversary of the market, the SNAP program, and our advertising plan for the coming season. So the Row W proposal is a response to vendor requests to create an easy-to-access area of the market on the west side of the market. Ideally, this row will be populated by vendors who are currently full-season vendors at the market. The new spaces will help to offset the loss of spaces along the south row. The south row spaces are kind of mismeasured, so they need to be kind of parsed out in 10-foot blocks, and that is going to reduce the number of available spaces there by about 3, according to the map. So that's a problem. This will allow for a concentration of growers to be created on the west side of the market, which is basically where the growers are already established. It'll allow us to move some of the growers who are in outlying areas like row 3 and 4 who don't require electricity up to that row. We will be able to provide limited electricity in row W. Let's see. That's the next slide. This will help new producers be more easily found in that we'd be able to move current producers from row 1 or 2 into the new spaces and then backfill those empty spaces with new producers. This will help enhance the shopping experience for market patrons in that it will create an area where they can just kind of jump out of their car and be able to locate all their produce growers nice and easily. We are proposing 12 to 16 spaces. I am leaning more towards 12 just to kind of make things a little more accessible and easy over there. Walnut Street will be closed starting at approximately 5:40. Currently, I believe we close Walnut Street at 6:30, and then it will remain closed. We'll have the current blockade where we normally have it during market hours, and then at 12 o'clock we will move it so it just closes off the top of Walnut Street, leaving access to the other south entrance to the market, approximately 400 feet away. The north row, I am not willing to populate the north row with vendors again due to safety concerns. Other vendors have kind of mentioned that it's a little bit hairy getting in and out of there when there are vendors there. Plus, I have talked to our emergency services coordinators, and they really insist that we have access for an ambulance to the market. And they were slightly freaked out by the width of the rows once it was occupied with people. And I mentioned that I had been planning on, there was a call to repopulate those spaces, and I was told they absolutely need to have ambulance access, and that seems to be significantly safer and more reliable to have those rows empty. Any program that we'll be putting up there will be kind of much lighter and easier to break down and shove back if we need to. The difference between a table with a little bit of artwork on it and a table loaded with produce or other goods is kind of significant, much less a whole row loaded with those things. So that's the proposal for row W. And we would like to start that this year. Okay. Also at the market this year is...
Can we discuss that, or is it, when do we talk about it?
We're going to come back to it.
So, yeah, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
It's on the agenda at the end.
So this year marks the 40th anniversary of the market, by most accounts that I can find. So we're going with it. So I will be organizing monthly raffles. I will be contacting vendors once we have our more of our vendors kind of in line and approved to see if they would be interested in providing discount coupons or freebies or like buy some, get some vouchers that the market will kind of generate and put into recycled shopping bags that I'm going to hire a local artist to make from our street pole banners that have seen far better days than they currently have. So that's part of the plan for the 40th anniversary. So those will happen once a month at the end of the month. So starting at the end of May, we'll start having these raffles, and that will be a way for us to add names to our email list and kind of just gain more exposure on Facebook and Instagram by kind of pumping those events that way. Also, probably in discussions with the local t-shirt printing place to have a 40th anniversary t-shirt designed. Those are some of the past t-shirts. I don't know what they're going to come up with for this 40th one, but we'll see what happens. So that'll just be another thing for the media to talk about. For the SNAP program this year, so again, the market processed about close to 24,000 in combined SNAP benefits. The SNAP match, the market will remain at $30 for this season. We expect to receive another $5,000 grant from Farm Credit Illinois, and we will apply for a $9,000 grant in SNAP matching funds from LinkUp. Usually we run one grant first and then kind of start the next one. And that first grant we run is the Farm Credit, which is good for any SNAP eligible food. But what I would like to do this year is kind of run that one alongside the LinkUp grant so that we would match the first $20 with produce only vouchers, and then the last 10 would be kind of the use it wherever you want to. So that means that like with the last $10 they could buy bread and coffee beans and other SNAP eligible foods. We're going to distribute SNAP info to schools, grades K through 5. We think it's probably the best way to reach a wide number of people who would benefit from the program. And we're going to do that in Champaign and Urbana. So we'll have materials written up in English and Spanish and distributed to the schools. If I could find someone who will translate it into French, I will also have them done in French, but I have a connection for the Spanish, so that's good. And then for use at our market, and also just as a kind of general distribution to the public, we're going to create a SNAP quick info card, just kind of explaining what the program does, where people can use stuff. And we're going to distribute that because it seems like people come up and we're trying to move them through the line, and it's a lot of information for people to kind of process. So we want to make that a little easier, and also just use it as a way we can reach out to other social service providers and hand them off that information as well. Advertising plans for the coming year. We're going to have WILL come back. They're going to I think we're going to do 2 broadcasts of Mid-American Gardener from the market again, and we will get in-kind radio spots for that we will play on Thursday, Fridays, and then Saturday mornings as little market reminders for everybody who's listening to their NPR station. We're going to also pick up a weekend planner sponsorship with Chambana Moms, one of the most popular destinations for parents to go to find out what to do with their kids, and maybe they'll decide to do the market with their kids. We'll also be having a half run of the website on Smile Politely. That will include a static ad on their mobile site, as well as 3 banner ads on their full site. And that is designed to get the young urban professional kind of crowd, people who are out of college, got a job, maybe got more money than they know exactly what to do with. So we'll be looking for those guys. We will also be buying time on Mix 94.5, and we are going to kind of parse out the advertisements so that we kind of lean heavy on it in the beginning of the season, and then kind of ease up a little bit in June, and then kind of towards the peak of market season start kind of leaning heavy on that, and then again when the students come back, and that's going to be true across a couple of these plans for Smile Politely and I forgot what the first one was. Chambana Moms, yeah. So that we instead of kind of buying advertising that just goes straight across the season and maybe isn't as effective, we're going to kind of target it and see what happens. Also have plans to buy some ads on local bus routes. So we'll probably do 2 30-day runs on, and each 30-day run is on 90 buses, so that's one ad. And that will, talk about captive audience, when you're on the bus, you just don't have much to go with, so I think that'll help us out. And they'll run on most of the local buses rather than the university buses, because it's just the single dump bus, not the articulated ones. And then finally, well, those look nothing like that. The market is in need of new banners, so we are going to have a new set of 4 banners printed up and hopefully hung at the market. These are just kind of rough samples, just so you guys could see.
Where's the pork chop?
I don't, like I was deciding how accurate, like they needed to reflect what was at the market. Someone was like, "Where's the chicken?" I'm like, "Well, I just gotta come out and see what happens." Right now, it's an all vegan selection. Just because I think there are more colors on it. I'm sorry, Stan. Don't take it personally. All right, I think that does it for the staff report. Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
I have a little presentation.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll go into that, and I have a couple of things to add too under this. I can talk briefly while you get set up. So we've had, so first of all, I have not gotten the food truck member to the city council yet, so that still needs to happen, but this board voted to do that at a prior meeting. Then Sarah Simezian, and correct me if I said her name wrong. Sinzian. Sarah has taken a new position. Sounds like it's a real positive step for her, but she's no longer working for the Land Connection. And so that unfortunately made her ineligible to remain our community rep on the board. So she has tendered her resignation. We really appreciate the time she's put in. But it just so happens that Tegan is both taking something of a hiatus in the baked goods department for Lucky Pierre, but also is employed by TLC and will be TLC's rep when they're at market. So when you're appointed to this board, you aren't assigned a category, and so Tegan thankfully can fill the community rep category. We don't have to boot him off the board or have council vote again. That means we will now have an opening that needs to be filled for a less than 4-year producer, and I'll just read that for everybody so you can let Brian know or me know if you have any one you'd like to suggest. It is a current vendor of any of the following: fruits and vegetables, meat, dairy, honey, flowers, and baked goods and other prepared foods. And this one needs to be a full season participant of less than 4 years and in good fiscal standing with the market. So.
Well, you've got meat, you've got produce, you've got
Flowers.
cut flowers. Sounds to me like you need either baked or honey or something like that, because you don't want to replicate what you've already got. I don't know who that would be. I mean, I'll leave that up to you guys. But you need a category that we don't have represented so they can have their voice. Because we'll have a food truck now, finally. And so that'll be great. Because I can't relate to some of the issues that somebody doing baked goods has. I can tell you about meat. Or lack of. But no. So, you know what I'm saying? So I would, to me, to balance it everything, you would need to get whatever that is.
So the mayor makes the appointment,
Right.
But I made note, we will probably send an email out to all the vendors at some point, but you're first to know. Please talk to folks. I mean, one really important thing is just the enthusiasm and the willingness to put in the time to serve on this board is very important. So,
But you're not going to specify? Because you ask just for anybody, then you're going to get just anybody. I guess you could
we
weed them down.
assemble the applicant pool and we present them to the mayor. So we'll try to give fair notice so anyone who's interested has the opportunity to apply. And if it comes with your recommendation as an advisory board member, that we want the mayor to be aware of that as well.
Are we able to get a list of last season's full vendors, so we're not just making suggestions for people who might not be full season vendors?
I don't know if we can give out a full list. I think
Probably.
if you'd like to talk about it with us, Brian can look into that,
Okay.
I guess, about a list. we have to respect confidentiality with regard to some of the information that vendors provide. So you are a public body, and so we don't want to violate confidentiality. We'll probably list some names or something if that can happen. And sorry, I kind of left you hanging there. That was all I had at this time, so great job.
Hello, I'm going to keep it brief. Your time is valuable, but I just wanted to share a little bit about some of the activity of the Arts and Culture program and then how it sort of interfaces with the market and what that could look like going forward. I came and spoke before, and I see maybe a couple new faces in the room since I've been here last, so excuse me for any repeats, and I'm going to just like swivel so I can see everybody. So just a little bit of background, I won't go into detail, but our program is in its 10th anniversary technically last year, but we're still in celebration. So 10th anniversary, and one of the things that we've done is, you'll see there we're called the Urbana Public Arts Program. We've recently become the Urbana Arts and Culture Program. That came after sort of 6 months of visioning on our commission and thinking about the inextricable link between arts and culture and wanting to really use culture as a catalyst for folks getting involved in our program more and more. And in recognition, of course, of a lot of our diverse populations in Urbana and immigrant populations that are growing in the area and really wanting to prop up cultural work as very much a part of the program. Here's our current Arts and Culture Commission. Sans a picture of Sarah Jones, who's very camera shy. So there's a picture of Boneyard Creek Crossing there. But our commissioners are a friendly bunch that I hope that you all get to know as well, because I see a lot of potential for cross-pollination between things like the market, which really are, the market really is kind of a mecca for lots of arts and culture in our city of Urbana, and many people point to the market as one of the first things that happens in terms of special events. So I really see a great opportunity for even more overlap in the kinds of things that we do together, and that's why I continue to want to come into your meetings and say hi to you and think about ways that we can kind of cross-pollinate those two programs. But just so you come with your ears and eyes a little aware of the kinds of things that we do, the Arts and Culture Program is responsible for a pretty long list of regular programming coming out of our program itself. But I will mention just a couple of things in particular that might pique your interest. One is that we do offer arts grants. So for folks in the room or even vendors at the market who are also artisans, arts grants also offer a really unique opportunity to get funding for exhibitions, performances, lots of things outside the market that will help sustain business, help curate and bring more and more arts and cultural opportunities to Urbana, and really position Urbana as that site of lots of activity for arts and culture. We really do fund anything, so a lot of times grantors get asked, like, what types of things do you fund? And I really feel lucky that my answer is, there is no answer to that. We really do fund quite a variety of things. And from small-scale exhibitions to large-scale special events. We've revised the grants program in recent years, this past year especially, into some 3 categories, tiers 1, 2, and 3, small, mid-size, and large grants, going up to $10,000 and as small as $500. I'll also mention things like Open Scene Open Mic, which is our brand new rotating open mic. If you have vendors that you'd want to keep aware of the fact that we rotate this, we'd be happy to have Open Scene Open Mic at a business or any type of place that could also serve as a venue in the city of Urbana. So you see here we've got Open Scene Open Mic at Common Ground, we've got Open Scene Open Mic at 25 O'Clock Brewing Company, Cunningham Township's Community Garden. So we really move it around, and that's the intention behind that program. So if you'd like to also have an open mic that's all ages, we'd love to have it there. Young Artist Studio is just another thing to kind of very much overlaps with our Art at the Market activities for young people. But Young Artist Studio continues year-round, so it's once a month, Sunday, free art classes led by different artists in the community, and we really feature a wide variety of activities for young people ages 5 and up. That's in the Urbana Free Library Children's Department. We're also responsible for lots of different sculptures and murals. We have a Murals on Glass program that you see in the middle is a digital prints of artwork on adhesive vinyl and adhered to downtown area windows. and then the mural program. So these alternate every other year. Coming up, Boneyard Arts Festival is really a major time too, to have lots of activity in our downtown. It does overlap with the indoor farmers market. So anyone who's also at the indoor farmers market, it's registered on Boneyard Arts Festival's page. I know that it gets registered annually. So you'll also see some additional foot traffic, but there's certainly some overlap there. And if you ever want to think strategically about how to kind of use those moments, you could think about things like marketing the deals or things that you do around special events like Boneyard or other things that happen over the summer. We do something called Urbana Celebrates the Boneyard, and that'll be in Boneyard Creek Crossing. We also have a mini documentary series, and I'd love to feature artisan vendors. It really is about local artists primarily, although I do am really in the business of wanting to expand arts and crafts and really thinking about lots of things as a craft in and of itself. So I could see also moving art now into the future towards featuring the art of baking or the art of, lots of food-related options here too. So please keep me in mind for things like that, because I would love to feature you in your business. Also coming up in the summer, we've got a brand new program called Urbana's Downtown Get Down, which will be all over downtown Urbana, but there'll be a concert on Main Street, complete with like a kids zone, live music. We'll have some vendors, primarily in arts market, and then games and installations, and just a lot of activity. Right now we're talking about 5 to 8 p.m., and the partners involved with this are the Urbana Business Association, the city, 40 North, and Urbana Park District. But that is kind of coming soon, and I'd like to just put a bug in your ear about that so you know that it's coming up. But that brings us to Art at the Market. This is the primary way in which I collaborate with the market program. And as Brian said, we supply funding to support concerts and arts workshops for youth at the market. I'm newly sort of a foster parent, and I can attest to the real need when you're walking around the market to have some activities for young people so that you can feel free to shop and do all kinds of other things while you're there, and really to have something for the whole family. And that's what we really aim to provide with this, and I think a lot of the programming the market offers in general. So we have regular ongoing craft activities, a different one every second Saturday of the month. This is all on second Saturdays only. And obviously, as Brian indicated, whether it be on Walnut Street or the North Row, what ends up happening is that on the days that there isn't an Art at the Market or a Sprouts or a Read at the Market, we have other kinds of activity that populate that area. This is an example of a performance from Timbaloo this past summer. I can attest I felt cursed this past summer with like every single concert I planned brought the rain. I mean, to the worst degree. I think maybe some of you saw me like perched with like under a tent with like holding up blankets to try to prevent instruments from being like irreparably damaged. It was really rough for Art at the Market this past season. We're gonna go forward, excited, hopeful that Mother Nature and I are friends this upcoming spring and summer. But we'll continue to be on second Saturdays of the month. And so I know that a question was raised in public comment about the curation of the market. And I will say that the way it is currently set up, we have buskers that get organized through the market. So they talk to Brian. The concerts, though, are organized by me. So if you have suggestions, anyone, of things you particularly would like to see, I am the person to come tell those suggestions to. I have a list that I keep, and I also start booking already. So know that the suggestion might not be taken up exactly immediately, but I would love to hear. So what I take into consideration when I'm booking the farmers market concerts, last year we actually experimented for the first time ever with amplification. I came and I spoke about it before we did it. I spoke about it after we did it. It seemed to be that not many people felt a huge difference actually, because we were again kind of on Walnut Street, a little bit of ways away. If you had a different experience, I'd love to hear it. But we are unlikely to continue that way. I think we'll probably just go back to mostly acoustic, maybe some very light amplification. Only reason being, we did a lot of effort to put a big stage out. I myself was on my back putting that stage together with Public Works folks, and I will say that it was a lot of effort. And for the small staff that we are, Ryan and me, and it's a lot of work. So it ended up not feeling like it had the biggest payoff in the end. And because of the rain, it really just was more of a nightmare than it needed to be. So what we're hoping to do, and this is one reason why I in particular am excited about a proposal that puts programming more integrated into the rest of the market, is I'm excited to have that in potentially the pop-up space that's being proposed. Because what I would like to see is something that's a little bit more, and in that way I probably wouldn't have a 9-person band. I would have something probably far more acoustic, far more light for people just shopping around. But to have something that really feels like integrated to the rest of the market feels nice, especially for patrons. One of the things that we also work on is a National Farmers Market Week. So this is the second Saturday in August. It falls on Art at the Market. So in my role of kind of curating programming in conjunction with Brian on those weekends, my hope is to actually have a wide variety of little activities, not wholly unlike Market at the Scare, but that would be themed around celebrating farmers markets and celebrating the vendors. And so there's a lot of ways in which I think that can look. We look also to the National Farmers Market Week organizers. Annually, if you've ever gone to their website, they put out a fantastic list of suggestions of what you can do at the farmers market to celebrate. We plan to have the Mayor read a proclamation. We'll have a number of little activities going on. In the past, I think this has included things like the kale eating contest, which sounds just yeah. I love kale, and that still doesn't sound good to me. So I'm like, I don't know quite what we'll do with there, but I'm really excited to kind of have some more programs going on. A band, just fully dressed as vegetables would be awesome. Roaming vegetables looks very possible thanks to Common Ground, some of the conversations I've already had there, and Land Connection, thank you, Tegan, as well. We have a wide variety of vegetable costumes laying low in the city of Urbana, so I'm excited for those to kind of come out that weekend. It'll be more of a festive farmers market in celebration of both the 40th anniversary and the National Farmers Market Week program. I'll also continue Market at the Scare. So this was the advertising from this past October. We had trick-or-treating at the market, costume dress-up and face painting, ghost stories from the library. We had a pop-up photo booth. We had face painting, craft activity, and Urbana Pops Orchestra played spooky sounds at the market. It was really a wide variety of programs, but I don't know about you. One of the things I noticed was there was like a ton of activity on Walnut Street, and I didn't see it pour into the market half as much as I wanted to. So for me, the proposal of moving things more like strategically placed in the interior of the market will help create a curated space of the farmers market. Not that the farmers market has these like side things that happen here and there. And I think that could have some serious value for keeping with the whole like the festivities of the farmers market that make people want to stick around and shop. One of the things that we had here was the trick-or-treating as the primary kind of way for people to go visit vendors. And I don't know actually how many vendors participated in having trick-or-treating kind of take place at their booth, but I'd love to revisit that if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, maybe having some trick-or-treat buckets or other things like placed within the market that people would pass on their way visiting other vendors. So this is an opportunity too for the board and vendors who are here and those who are not to also weigh in on some of the things that you'd like to see for some of these more like festive programs that we have going on that really are designed to support the farmers market. Just some pictures from last year. So you could see, we had some people in cosplay. We had a group called Spread the Magic that dressed up as Marvel and Disney characters, and we had Star Wars at the University of Illinois come and do cosplay. We have the orchestra, and we had all these different vendors all down Walnut Street. So it'd be really interesting to see how we could shape that up next year to really make it meet the needs of the farmers market and get more folks in the market. It's also a great opportunity for you to dress up vendors and people around the table if you are so inclined. But that's really it. I just wanted to kind of mention those things in particular as ways that I work to kind of collaborate with the market to bring more programs and activities for families to the market so that while they're shopping, there's also meandering and hanging out and really considering it a destination like it is in Urbana. Any questions, comments? initial feedback you'd like to see for next year, I'm all ears. My email is also working and it's right here. So you can also email me, call me with ideas that you'd like to see.
Don't let it rain when you have wonderful concerts planned.
That's the saddest thing.
That was so nice.
There was one that was just really bad. And I don't know if it was anyone in here, but there was some really inventive vendors, like, who had literally lowered their tent to the ground like this and were underneath it. Like, you could see little feet, like, moving the tent away from the farmer's market. So, you know, we figured out how to escape, but it was rough last summer. I'm hoping we have better weather. A lot goes into the planning of all of this. As we all know, so it's rough when we have those hard days.
I'm sorry, one more question. I think last year, I remember you saying that there was difficulty with the stage and possibly looking at a new stage from somewhere.
So the Downtown Get Down is going to have what is the Park District Showmobile. It's brand new. It's so cool. I think it's too big of an operation for the farmers market. I think also, just to be frank, I think there needs to be like more support for, like more enthusiasm for what happens at the market before I make things a whole lot bigger. I'm not hearing like a ton of enthusiasm for what happens at the farmers market, and so I want to know a little bit more about what's desired, and it was an experiment to use the smaller stage. I literally just wanted to elevate things so people could see it from when they were shopping and everything, and it was okay, but it took a lot to put together. It is notable that your park district is getting a showmobile. It's really nice for special events. It will be at our Downtown Get Down. And if you don't know what a showmobile is, it's like a semi that pulls up and you go click and it kind of opens up and becomes a beautiful stage. But it's big. I mean, it's not a semi, it's a small semi, it's a truck. But that, that'll be there. It's too big for the farmer's market for sure.
Ready to move on? So next is Brandon.
Yes, can I steal your keyboard and I'll set up the next item while we're talking about this one. So we've had updates on the What's in Your Square initiative at every and the advisory board's been lucky to have the mayor, I think at our last 3 meetings, and our city administrator Carol Mitten, I think at the last one, if not 2. So this remains a very important priority for the city, and as Carol told you last time, that our leadership envisions the farmers market as kind of the tip of the spear of the ultimate response to reimagining that whole 9-block area around Lincoln Square. So, and as you know, the city owns all the parking lots. So long term, we're interested in establishing a vision that will benefit the farmers market for the long term, and this site for the long term. So we're really talking about a 30-year or a 50-year vision.
You got a double period.
Thank you. I'll bring up a map so we can see the 9-block area.
I'm still not coming.
Well, we need another C. So the What's in Your Square process has taken some time. There's a lot of effort that's gone into it. There's been a lot of folks who had feedback, and you've heard from one of our planners, Kevin Garcia, last time, who gave you that initial overview of all the things farmers market that were in there. And as I'm sure most of you recall, that the farmers market remains, the #1 attraction for people to this 9-block site. And it's not lost on the city how vital the farmers market is in that regard. And we had initially proposed a visioning that was really kind of intended to be exclusive to the farmers market. However, as we continue to make plans for the next steps in this process, it's becoming very clear that we need to consider how we're going to accomplish this, and we need to get a better definition of our scope. So right now, The focus is on that 9-block area, which the mall and the hotel are central to. Those are privately owned sites. You know, we are having conversations with those owners as well. Not directly on the site, but across the street is the 200 Vine block. That's directly north of the city building where the old Goodyear tire is. We now have a development agreement for that to become some townhomes with Green Street Realty. We'll be initiating that project this spring. So that's kind of a related piece of the physical redevelopment of the area that's happening. At the same time, I've mentioned a few times that the city's in the midst of a facility study. And this facility study, for a while, I think we thought maybe it was more peripheral to the goal of visioning the market, but we're starting to, I think, recognize that there's more overlap than we first realized. The closure of the Civic Center and the conversations that led to the closure of the Civic Center were as much about the needs of the facility as it was about the city operation for running that kind of an event space. And as we look at best practices, if you recall many of the examples that this board has discussed, but also Kevin brought up, many of which were directly mentioned in the What's in Your Square visioning, the really successful examples of intentional permanent homes for farmers markets often include indoor space and outdoor space. We would have physical, even if it's just outdoor space, those investments, the public investment in the space is intended for multiple uses throughout the year, throughout the week. So we wouldn't really be in a position where as a municipality we're going to be able to invest in space and have it really kind of like it is now. It's a parking lot except for those few hours when it's a farmer's market. We want an outcome where it's a multi-use public plaza. That seems to be more consistent with what the public's asking for, which means we need to have an operational sense of how we're going to be using that space. Covering the space from the elements seems like a minimum thing that's very desirable, both for farmers market vendors but also for other activities, because it gives us greater guarantees we're going to be able to use that year round. But we also need to talk about, as a city and as an advisory board, about the idea of having your long-term permanent home be an indoor-outdoor space. And there's significant operational considerations, because again, then the city's having to look at basically bringing on an operational capacity that it recently let go of, which was Civic Center kind of functionality, having staff who are responsive to people who book the space, doing setup, that kind of thing. And again, the operation of that extends well beyond the farmer's market, but ultimately the resource of, if we had an indoor-outdoor market that's available to vendors on market days, that's what we want. It's just we can't ignore the rest of the picture to get there. The good news is that there appear to be a lot of professional engineering, architectural, planning firms out there that have done these kinds of designs and built these kinds of facilities all across the country. So we're confident as we approach a more specific proposal about actually hiring a consultant to do this work, that we're going to be in a situation where we can really be talking very concretely about a physical space. And in that process, we hope to do the very deliberate visioning for the needs of the farmers market specifically. But it's starting to look like that won't be just a standalone process. It's going to make a lot more sense to incorporate, the needs of the city facilities and public plaza space and what an indoor operation would mean to the city as part of that whole picture. And yes, that's my update on that. So I'm sorry we don't have more progress to show at this time. It's been a slow process, but an earnest one, an intentional one. The most recent development you may have seen in the News Gazette, that the city hosted a luncheon at Lincoln Square with the mall owner and the broker representing the mall as well, and many of the tenants, to basically give a similar update to what this board received 3 months ago. We got the information a lot earlier, but a little more specific focus on the mall and the public's ideas about future uses of the mall space. So that's been the most recent step, and we would expect the the conclusion of that process, which is still intended to culminate, I think, with a video and a social media campaign, and in the coming months, and then we would ideally move into a deliberative process. I think this board would likely become most involved as we, once, like either at the point where we're selecting a vendor, we might want to have an advisory board rep involved in that to conduct whatever scope of services is ultimately decided on. But then we, of course, would want to make sure that that consultant is gaining, a lot of direct feedback from this advisory board, and more importantly, all the vendors and the public as well, to craft vision. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about that.
Brandon, where was there was like an arts building
Mhm.
apartment?
The Urbana Arts,
Where was that supposed to go?
south of Illinois Street.
Oh, okay. And then that didn't pan out. Is that
No,
right?
it was a tax credit proposal that we learned wouldn't be feasible. So yeah, right now the city has no other plans, and that also to the property to the south is something that the city needs, just like the Civic Center. We'll probably look at it in the context of the facilities study and these other visioning efforts, and then we can make that part of the visioning process. One way to think about it too, and this hasn't been nailed down, but initially we talked about really wanting to nail down a vision for what folks want to see, but not necessarily be specific about where it's going to be, because we just want to nail down the amenity list and understand the needs of vendors, patrons, and the public for these other kinds of uses. But we are really interested then in applying that knowledge to the site options in our downtown to come up with a real specific proposal down the road. Again, ideally with architects and engineers involved in the feasibility of that. And that's where kind of the sky's the limit right now. This is, again, a 30-year vision. This is a permanent home for the farmers market. So, we don't want anyone to limit their imaginations. You can put it right in the middle of the mall and, make a lot of assumptions about that. But the idea is really to just get people thinking, and then engage consultants who can bring that down to earth for a specific proposal. Any other questions?
Is the public allowed to ask questions? That's an honest question. I don't know what the rules are.
Generally, no.
Okay.
No, it's not. Sorry.
That's the rule.
Depends what it's about.
So, any other questions on that?
Do you guys have any sense of timeline?
I can't make a commitment. I apologize. I feel like I've come here every 3 months and told you that we're going to have some significant development, and then 3 months goes by and we're not ready. I do believe, though, that the city, it's a time of transition, and the changes that are being made are really going to serve the farmers market in the long term. We're going to do it right. We're going to do it for the long term, and it's just taken some time to accomplish that. So the next item on the staff report is the city-owned land, which I brought this up at our last meeting. We're still early on. There's a local farmer, I think, currently has it in either soy or corn production. But that lease will come due in December. So I'm going up North Lincoln to where Olympian Drive meets North Lincoln Avenue. So that's a Prairie Fruits farm there. And this right-of-way is intended for the future extension of Olympian Drive. So we're not looking to do anything permanent there, I assume. The city has a long-term interest in extending the road there. But for the next several years, we know that we have about 7 acres here that could be put into service to benefit the local food system in a more specific way. So again, this is Mayor Marlin's initiative. The city has a few different options on how we can go about this, but to be clear, this, like running a civic center, isn't the kind of thing that the city has a lot of expertise in-house to support, funding to support, or staff time for. That said, we're still interested in seeing what we can contribute to the needs of farmers in the area. So a couple ideas have come out, like different ways we might approach this. One idea is, of course, the concept of an incubator. There are certainly physical needs that for farmers would need water or sheds or other structures extended out to the site. It seems like it would have to be conventional, given the land's history. And again, we're not necessarily in a position to create something for the long term. So one key question is really, are there enough startups that would be interested in occupying this that we could do something more along the lines of an incubator? A parallel to that, in talking with Tegan, I appreciate your time, Tegan, there's potential we could try to pursue grants to bolster the funding available to do this. And it seems that many of those grants revolve around the idea of incubation and supporting minority-owned farming operations. So we would, at the city though, we would need to partner with an outside organization. We would need to partner with a Land Connection or another nonprofit, because we wouldn't want to directly handle that grant. We, of course, want to leverage our relationship with Wes Leslie at Prairie Fruits next door. Their physical presence there allows for potential to have an arrangement so they can have eyes on the property and maybe make some of those amenities available that we might need or any tenant might need for the property. So we want to have a more deliberate conversation with them about their ideas. Next, kind of on the spectrum, was the idea of reaching out to existing growers who are big enough that they could consider using all this land for an extension of their existing operations. I'm not sure how many farmers would fit the bill on that, but again, not for corn or soy, but someone ideally who's already growing at the market and could make use of that. That seems like a more limited option, but we're remaining open to everything at this time. And of course, that doesn't mean it couldn't be meat or poultry at the site either. That's your pork chop. Shout out, Stan. I think that's the general scope of ideas. Tegan offered that we could try to put something up on the classified section at TLC. We could do a blast to all vendors and just try to solicit feedback generally. I'm just interested in hearing what the advisory board members think at this time, if you have strong preferences. Irrespective, I guess, of what we really try to target, we know that because this is city-owned property, we have to have some kind of a public process. We're going to have to open this up. This is the second time we've talked about it at a public meeting. We want to be inclusive when we get the word out at some point, even if we're kind of focusing on what kind of outcome we want. But we need to give everybody an opportunity to say how they might be interested in using the property. If we can't figure out a better outcome, the city would just put an RFP out there, a request for proposals, to use the land, and I assume the worst that would happen is it would stay in production as corn or soy. So, your thoughts?
Okay, let me get this straight, because I'm not 100% sure I've got this all. So basically, you're going to go and ask different people growing things and give them so much square footage to grow their thing, and somebody grow. So basically, several individuals can sell, grow, not sell.
That would be the incubator idea.
Okay.
But in terms of demand for that and our ability to provide them what they would need, that's not really been determined yet.
Okay.
The next idea would be maybe you have one or two growers who do it, and in that case, it might be less incubation and more helping a larger operation expand. Other questions or thoughts? Seeing none, would you conclude the staff report?
Staff report's concluded. Okay, so up next is Shay has requested an opportunity to discuss the Walnut Street section of the market.
Right. So, yeah, I just wanted an opportunity for the board to be able to talk about it and give input to the proposal. I wanted to recognize that Brian has collected our ideas regarding grouping growers together, and he came up with the idea, because vendors don't want to move, with putting people in the Walnut Street row. So I acknowledge the your step towards meeting us in the middle, and I appreciate your efforts there. So thank you for that. We would love to, again, work more collaboratively with the market staff so that we can come up with ideas that work for everyone. I know our farm, we pull up there to unload, particularly in the spring whenever our row is more full. So we use that space a lot, and I know other farms as well use that space for unloading and loading back up. So this kind of thing has been a pattern with the market staff over the past years of like decision making that have then been communicated to the board after decisions have been made, and we're trying to be more cooperative in that effort. I'm wondering too about the possibility of bringing back the annual market vendor meetings that we had in the winter time. It seems like those have been a little wishy-washy in the past, but I thought it would be a great way to kind of deep dive into possibilities of making our market better. We all know that our sales are declining, and overall nationally farmers markets foot traffic and sales are down, but we can still buck that trend as the co-op has done. They've continued to expand while other co-ops have shrunk, but that's a digression. I noticed that we're adding new vendors, and I wondered if those new vendors were adding new products, if they were unique products that were being brought in, and wondering too if there was any vetting process that was happening when new vendors apply. I think, if I'm correct, Stan has an agreement about meat vendors coming in. Is that right, Stan? You have no standing. Okay.
With who?
I was under the impression that you had.
I got a mafia run out there, but nobody knows about that.
Okay. All right.
No,
Okay.
I mean, we had talked about that in our strategic plan,
Yeah.
but that never got implemented, so that's
Right.
off the table.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. So maybe if we could define what a day-to-day operation looks like versus what a big picture operation looks like, as far as making decisions that will impact each business's finances. So I don't know. Anybody else have anything to say?
I got a couple of questions. I don't know how much time we got. First, who is the who? Who's asking for this?
Who's asking for this?
I know you don't want to reveal names, but are we mob rule?
No, it's not.
No.
It's not mob rule. We got
The main vendors are where they're going to stay.
we got this.
Yeah.
We got a petition a year ago signed by a lot of growers that really defined this idea. And why don't you pass that out, Brian? So
I know what it is. I remember.
I just want to make sure
I didn't sign it.
all the board members know what it is, but. Yes. But we're still in the process of collecting information from vendors, and we're not able to disclose publicly.
Right, okay.
Who's
That's
expressed
my,
interest at this
I mean, I just, you answered my question.
Yeah.
Okay, then, one of the reasons for doing this is make it easier for the shoppers, because all the produce would be in one area.
Yeah.
Well, let's just put all the food trucks, which they are in one area, let's put all the crafts in one area, let's put all the meat guys in one area, let's just move the whole thing around, make it easy for everybody. If that's the mentality, I mean, that's what I heard, we're gonna make it easier for everybody, let's just make it easy for everybody.
I think.
Which that ain't gonna happen. That's sarcasm, but you see what I'm saying? That theory, that reason does not hold water, for me, anyway, so that's that. Doesn't seniority mean anything? Lorianne brought this up about your anchor vendors. There's probably, I can count on one hand, vendors that bring people in there. It's just a fact of life. And, you need to watch and take care of those folks. As far as market planning and, you're doing this, it's kind of like a pretty much coattail thing, which you're just putting it out there and really not talking to anybody on that. So that's that point. Kim brought up the semi-trucks. You guys aren't out there in the mornings, but they come in there when Indianapolis produce is running late, and you can't predict when they're going to get there because they have traffic jams, they have wrecks. You're going to jam that thing up. Because I try to get unloaded in there because I usually drop at co-op before I go to market. There's times I had to carry it in there because they're in there. Well, they cannot get in now there with that closed off at 5:30. It just ain't gonna work. Because them guys, it takes all they can do just to get in there the way it is. So that would be a disaster because you'd have Indianapolis produce on your hind end. And then, kind of lastly here, I think you said we're losing 3 spots on the South Row by the way you're gonna move things around. Right now, you've got 60 community groups. That's 29% of a farmer's market. You could take away 10 of those community groups and make it more of a farmer's market. And you'd have still the same space. I mean, why do you need so many community groups? It's a farmer's market. I get it with the arts and crafts. I get it with everybody else. It's kind of an extension of the market. But community groups, and half of them are political, I really have a problem with that. You need to limit those to just a certain amount, and then you can rotate them around, do whatever you got to do. But they're not a farmer's market. Now, they're not as radical as they used to be, but during an election year, they're crazy. Which we got a 20. I know it's funny, Brandon, but I mean, we could eliminate some of those, and you have plenty of room for vendors to grow, because it's just, except for the few weeks that whoever mentioned, the peak of sweet corn and peaches, it's got spots all over, and that's just a marketing note. Everybody knows you got to keep it compact and full. So you start spreading it out, it's going to be even worse. That's all I had. I just wanted to get my piece in.
I had a couple questions on the Walnut Street. How big are those spaces going to be? We're doing 12.
10 by 10,
Okay.
maybe 10 by 12.
Because on the South Row, they're not 10 by 10.
I know, that's why South Row is being redrawn so that they can be 10 by 10.
So they're all going to be 10 by 10 on the South Row?
I hope so. That's why
Well,
we're missing 3 of them.
It'll be a problem if it's not and we have it on the Walnut.
Technically, none of the spaces at the market are exactly 10 by 10.
Okay, but 10 is 10 by
Ones
10.
on South Row will become significantly closer to 10 by 10. I can't guarantee you'll be able to measure them out to the inch, but
Okay, because we had issues
that's
last
exactly
year
why this is
with
come up.
vendors
Yes.
because the tents are 10 by 10 and spaces are 9 foot something.
Yeah.
And then when people come in late,
Right.
people that already set up have to move their tents, their tables, and there shouldn't be a reason for that. So, and then on the pop-ups on the north end, how big are those spaces? And what are we charging them?
We aren't charging anything there. It's generally for programming at the market. So Art at the Market will be setting up there.
So it won't be no
Lead the
vendors
Market.
then? No vendors selling
We
anything?
had a food truck last year.
Right. That was an experiment, A, to bring more minority-owned businesses into the market, but also to test out whether it really made sense to put vendors there. And after having him there and seeing the market break down a couple of times, I did not feel like that was safe. Plus, it was still like a full row of vendors there would still block off ambulance access. That's the clearest, best way we have right now to get ambulance access in there.
So pop-ups will not have anybody selling anything then, right?
Could.
Okay, how much are we charging? They get the same fee as we do?
Yes, they are. They would be if they were.
Okay. And what kind of a screening process are we going to allow someone to participate? The reason I asked, we're on a lot of items that are already saturated. And if we got somebody else who wants to come in twice a month that's already selling what we already have, it hurts us standing.
We have no plan to allow produce or baked good, like
Well,
value added.
how many
food
more
growers in
flower
that
vendors are
area.
we going to get?
What was that?
How many more flower vendors?
2.
Because there are flower vendors that will come in for a pop-up.
It's not planned to be a vendor type space. We are considering the idea of having it be a space for artists right now, where we would have like a maybe 2 or 3 times a market season event where we would allow kind of more professional artists to come in and set up at the market, just as an added draw to the market, to encourage patrons to come so that we could offer a higher quality of artistic goods there rather than, standard market fare.
Just from past experience with those artists and farmers, artists are a lot more of a pain in the ass to deal with when you ask them to move their stuff should an ambulance have to get by. So if the booths are all 10 by 10, those are only 2-lane roads. Either way, something's going to be in the way if you put any sort of programming or pop-up there. That's the brass tacks of it. So you either have something that's less deep, like a musical performance with no tents, or if there are tents involved, it's the same thing. What we call it is there is something there that is 10 by 10 that impedes the flow of an ambulance. So if you put anything there, it impedes the flow of an ambulance. So if you can't put vendors there, then you can't put pop-ups there, then you've got to put the pop-ups in Walnut Street, and you can't put vendors there.
Well, I think it will be significantly easier to move things that aren't vendors there. And right now, like I said, it's not going to be a full-time thing, and they are also not going to span the full length of Walnut, the North Row. So they would only occupy, if the arts proposal, if we decide to pursue that, they would occupy maybe 120 feet of that area. And then
That
days like
requires an ambulance
Sprouts
to
and Days at
zigzag
Market would
to
only
get-
occupy 10 feet. So an ambulance could easily loop around them, and where we have them positioned, they are at the top of row 3, where they could easily dip in and dip back into the row if they needed to access the far.
Tell you what, it sounds like we need a lot more discussion. I'd like to make the motion to table this for another year till we have time to talk about it. So I so move.
Second it.
So I'll just chime in. You're certainly welcome to make a motion to table this, but please understand what you're doing is you're tabling the advisory board's discussion. The advisory board can't prevent staff from making a decision about this. We're interested in hearing your input, so I would encourage the board to complete its discussion while you're here in session in a public meeting. so as not to curtail your conversation and the input that you're giving right now, because I'm enjoying the opportunity to take notes and hear all of your perspectives. So I just want to be clear that the advisory board doesn't have the authority to prevent staff from making a decision about the layout of the market.
But I agreed with Shay's idea of having a vendor meeting. You know, we used to have them every year to get everybody's input. And I know sometimes that's a goat rope, but still, this is a pretty, and I think as Lauren alluded to, it's a pretty big deal with folks that this is our livelihood. I mean, I know you said setting up in the rain and everything is a bummer, but when I go home with 50% less income, that's a bummer. That's a bummer because I worked hard to get there. So my point is, you know, there's, like I say, there's anchor vendors or your people doing this for a living. And so you're making decisions that affect our pocketbook, you know. So I think we need to think about it a little bit more and have more discussion on it, because I wouldn't even known about which I wasn't on the list. But if somebody had sent it to me, or I would have been in the blind walking in the meeting, because I didn't get it because I wasn't on the list. But still, I just think it's all happened pretty quick for that big of a decision, you know. And we don't. I mean, we can talk all night, but I just think it's too big a decision to make. You know, it seems like it's pretty much in the works already. It's just you're going to do it.
How are your application numbers at this point compared to last year?
They're about the same. Last year we were about 100 applications at the same point last
Is the
year.
breakdown the same?
I don't know. I've not performed such an analysis.
But
It's
like
pretty
I
much the
said,
growers have applied for the most part.
you can get rid of 20 community groups and create a whole lot of room there. And they're not farmers market. It's farmers market to me.
But the main reason for this proposal was to allow produce growers to move to one section of the market to kind of present a uniformed front, and this seemed like a fairly reasonable way to do that, given the restrictions on the North Row. So opening up the community groups row won't really change that much.
But diversity in a market is great. You know, people go around and look at this, they look at that, and if a newbie has to be over there, I know when I was first there, you know, 15 years ago, I was the only guy out there. So you got to work hard to bring people to you. So just putting everybody in one area, I don't think that's the right thing to do, because, you know, let the shoppers go around and find, you know, when you was doing it, you know, people would find you out there. I mean, it wasn't the best spot, it wasn't row one, but you got to build your clientele and your customer base, and people will shop around. If they don't get out of the front row, then they don't get out of the front row. That's the way a farmer's market works. I mean, it's just the way it works. It's supposed to work, put it that way.
Thank you. I mean, we, again, really appreciate your feedback. I do want to emphasize with regard to community groups, though, that the city, you know, has an obligation to allow for free speech at our market, and we have to appeal to the public's expectations for our market. And
But you can say it's full.
I think we do pretty often. I'm not sure on our.
I mean, who determines you're going to have 60? I mean, how do you know that number? I mean,
Well, it's not 60 on any given day. It's 60 over the course of
I know.
the season. So it's just, that's the row that's currently laid out for them.
Well, there's a motion and a second that you'll need to attend to.
Oh, okay. So
I just want to, if I can, I'd like to just add a couple of things. You know, we're still in the information gathering stage on this proposal. A reminder will go out to remind all the producers to, you know, this is your opportunity to have feedback in this process. If we move forward, there will be more communication. There will be more discussion. But please understand that it won't be directed at this advisory board making the decision. And also, I want folks to understand that that not all of our vendors feel comfortable expressing their views at our vendor meetings because of the behaviors of some of our folks who've spoken up at those meetings. Voices have been raised, And we get feedback after meetings sometimes from vendors who say things like, I wish sorry I didn't speak up, but I didn't feel comfortable. So we have to recognize that we have to give vendors multiple ways in which to give input, not just at meetings. We're not opposed to a meeting, but please understand if we do have a vendor meeting about this, it's not a decision-making meeting. It's just another opportunity for input. And I want to emphasize that we remain open to input, and we spend a lot of time on the phone with folks. We're happy to listen to your reviews now and document them. And we're happy to continue to listen to you, but the decision won't come quickly. So
Well, I'm gonna leave the motion stand.
All right,
So we have a second, so we gotta vote on
So we have a motion from Dan and a second from Kent to table this conversation until the next
it. Season.
season, so for a year,
Right. For further discussion.
for further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I've never opposed, nay. I'll say no.
So no, so Shay and Tegan are,
I believe you can vote too, because it's.
I think we need to discuss it before the 9th, please, so.
I motion that we have the staff prepare 3 proposals that look at different ways to address the same concerns, present them to us in a month, and the advisory board can give feedback. We can set up a meeting for all vendors where they see the exact same proposals and can give feedback. And then the staff can make decisions based on those proposals and said feedback. But I would suggest that the staff, especially given the loading and unloading during the first month of the market, not even consider any movement on Walnut Street until after the end of May.
Did my motion carry?
I don't believe it did. I counted 3 and 3.
Who was it?
Sure.
It was 3 for and 3 against.
He didn't vote, did he?
I voted that we needed to, I think we need to discuss it going forward, not just wait a year. That's,
So your motion,
okay.
I misunderstood him. I
Your
thought
motion was
discuss it,
defeated.
yeah.
and it was 3 to 3. Tegan just made a
Very lengthy
pretty
motion.
lengthy motion. Is there a second? Oh, you need to say that.
Is there a second to Tegan's motion?
If there isn't, it's okay. I just have an idea.
You have to, first.
So there's no second?
No second, but we can continue conversation. And I want to emphasize, though, that, again, that the advisory board doesn't have the
Oh, I get
ability to be the decision
I
maker.
get it, no, I got it.
Okay.
I got it, no, I understand.
But we appreciate your.
Well, I think I do think it's important to note that the people that are currently in the first row are a lot of the founders of the market itself. People like John and Bob Kleiss, who's not there anymore, and I think Jeff Meyer, and it seems a little disrespectful to the founders of the market to decrease their, potentially decrease their sales. I mean, 17% of we were down 17% on sales last year. That's considerable amount of money, and that's just from the farmers market. And that's on top of previous years of sales loss. And I can't imagine a way going forward to continue losing sales every year and to not be included in a decision that then leads to the loss of sales. For a founding market vendor, particularly.
I also, if the applications aren't up and the market is already sparse a third of the time anyhow, I don't see what putting other produce vendors closer to cars will actually accomplish. It's saying that the suggestion in this is reasoning to do it, but that's not what this is asking for. It's not asking for more vendor spaces than the market can already reasonably fill at any market during the season. So if the founding idea or the foundational idea for adding those spaces is to move produce vendors to one area, it doesn't do that. To bring new vendors to that doesn't necessarily benefit them because they're new, they don't have as much sort of
Low fall.
Yeah. So what tends to get people to notice you is when they're walking through the market. People are going to walk right past new vendors, go to the mainstays, walk through the market, and then walk right past them again. That really is the best area in my mind for public programming. Maybe we just need more public programming there. Maybe we could even put some of the community tents there.
Hey, there we go.
And that's a good way to, you could have more community tents. Everyone could have a community tent. I'll do one every week. But I mean, increase public programming so that the outsides look inviting and interesting, and then people will want to stay inside. I don't think the reasoning for creating Row W holds water, and I feel like it's just a bad attempt to solve a problem without fully understanding the problem and actually making a solid plan with the input of all of the vendors and the advisory.
In your comments earlier, the West Road, nobody pays attention to it. We need to get more toward the center. I mean, that was your exact words. You want to be more part of the market.
That wasn't my exact words, sorry.
But basically,
Can I
but you
correct
said people pass through, and you want to be more part of the market. Let's bring
I
it in.
hear that, yeah, so let me
So,
clarify.
going out there
That's
don't
two
help.
different things. The thing that I said was that Walnut Street, on events like Market at the Scare, when actually we have like 300 people coming over for Market at the Scare, I didn't see those people in all their costumes, and I could see them. They're literally dressed up as Frankenstein, walking into the market to really spend money in the way that I wanted. Because we don't do programs to undermine farmers. We do programs with the goal of wanting to increase your sales. And of course, if that's not what's happening, we need to know, right? Because then we need to adjust something. But that's not what I said. What I did say, though, and I think this is what you're pointing to now, is that there is a feeling of it being different, to not be. What I think I see in this proposal, and it might be solved a different way as Tegan's freaking out, is that when I approach the market, and I'm frequently somebody that approaches, even though I live in East Urbana, I come around the west side of the market to go into the market frequently, like a lot of people that do, I believe. We have kind of our entrance set up there. The information tent's there with intention. I come with a row of people's backs to me. The farmer's market is closed off with people's backs to the people entering it. That is a particular kind of social feeling for somebody entering the farmer's market. It's not a welcoming feeling. And I would argue that sometimes the political groups repositioning over there might not be the most welcoming feeling either, depending on your political affiliation. So I would encourage you to consider that. But I just think that I would love to see veggies greeting me when I enter the market. I would like to see something else greeting me, personally. Now that's my personal opinion, but I'm saying that's a little bit more of what it is. It's like that feeling of it being kind of a festive, integrated community environment. And it feels different depending on whether it's outward facing, inward facing, kind of a combination of both. I mean, there really is no entrance to the market, as we all know. There's a lot of entrances to the market. And so I think those things are just kind of what I mean when I said that. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to correct it because I think we weren't hearing each other exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
My wife tells me that.
So does my partner too.
Other comments, otherwise, motion to adjourn.
Okay. So are there any further comments? All right, new business? All right, then just adjourn. I would like to request a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
Do you have any motion?
No, we
You'll
do
make
it.
the motion.
I'll make the motion, okay, I'm sorry.
Diane makes the
Well, I've
motion.
never known this before, so.
Just don't stick
Is
your
there a
hand
second?
out.
No.
Don't know what you're buying.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
I thought you guys just want to hang out.
All those in favor? All those in favor of adjournment? Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.